take something like that any month of the year, but in January, I am over the moon.
If I painted a winter carp, I couldn't do it better than this. This is amazing. Milton is everything that you would want in a carp lake. Carp fishing probably isn't the first thing you'd associate with a gloomy and damp winter's morning. And certainly not for an all-round angler like myself. But if you can find the right venue, a different story can be told, where carp are the perfect choice. So this is why I arranged to meet Dan Yeomans in Dorset. Because here, it can be easier to get a bite in January than July.
Morning, boy.
You made it then, mate, to Dorset.
I could not get here quick enough.
Hey, how you doing?
Very well, how are you?
Yeah, good, good.
Milton Abbas.
This is the legendary Milton Abbas, and you've come for some Milton Magic.
I need to get some winter carping under my belt, mate.
Yeah, well, there's a good chance here. Good head of carp, they feed in the winter. So I would say, let's go for a walk and try and get you on some fish.
Plan, yeah.
Hey? Come on, let's go for a wander.
Winter fishing for me was always a good chance to change up my typical fishing. I knew coming into the winter that fishing the lakes I typically fish, which is, you know, very low stock, scratch around for 1 or 2 bites a year. Going into the winter, staying on those venues was silly, really. I always looked forward to finding a new venue, starting a fresh campaign. It was all something I really looked forward to doing, and always fishing somewhere with a bit higher stock, with a bit of a better winter form, knowing you're going into the period of November, December, January, February, with the chance of a few bites of a session, something that always really excited me. This place always pops up, you know. Milton Abbas is known for its winter form. It doesn't freeze, it's spring fed. The lake temperature, speaking to Martin, seems to be a bit lower all year round, so when it hits those really cold periods, the carp really don't get affected as much. Going back to it, the winter is so dependent on that venue and choosing the right venue, and I've never been able to find that right venue near home, so hopefully something that is going to get me a few bites and give me that motivation to get back out in the bank and enjoy what can be a really fruitful time of year. The plan is find them, but it's not a very it's not a very big lake at all, so I'm just going to get 2 rods out to start with. I'm just going to flick a couple of singles out into a cloudy looking area, actually in the next swim up, but this swim here commands like the middle of the lake, and Martin's told me he heard fish out here last night, so I'm just going to leave the barrow here. I'm going to just go flick 2 rods out up there and just sit there and just sort of watch down the lake for the day, see if I see any signs, and kind of just make a decision. It's always weird, like turning up to a new lake, just to get the lay of the land. I think I just need to spend a bit of time sort of like looking at the water, watching the water. I might as well do it with a couple of rods out, so.
I'm very motivated to fish in winter generally for a mixture of species, and I'm motivated to carp fish providing I'm fishing the water where they're feeding. My logic with carp fishing perhaps is to keep me motivated is different to probably many other people. I'm only focused on picking the right venue. If you pick the right venue, you can look almost you're a fraud, because you can look a lot better than you are because you're fishing a water that's full of feeding fish. That is the real trick. So providing I found that, then I'll go winter carp fishing. If not, I ain't interested. I have to say, sitting in a bivvy for days, weeks on end, not getting a bite. So it's all down to the venue.
Wow, this weather is horrible. Some lovely conditions for January, I guess. A bit milder, but we've got a storm rolling in, the wind's hacking down. Might not be minus temperatures, but with that wind and rain, it's still very cold. However, casting out 2 single hook baits to likely looking areas while I had a little search of the lay of the land has produced a very unexpected bite actually. How's that for a start? Thank you, mate.
Well done.
Unexpected that, isn't it? How's that for starters then? It's absolutely blowing a hoolie, but as I said, it's brought that warm wind, slightly milder weather, and yeah, it didn't take long. No bait, literally just a single monster shrimp wafter out there, just while I decided what to do, and I got lucky early on. A very quiet night forced me this morning to get back on the barra and move. It seemed to work for me yesterday, and I've decided until I find a bulk of fish, I'm going to do the same. So it was an early pack up and I moved down into this central area of the lake. I watched as the day got brighter, and as dawn rose, I did see some signs of fish out in this middle section. There was a couple of patches of fizzes and even the odd show. So for now, I've just shipped 2 rods out using the baiting pole, nice and quietly, just fishing for a bite. And if I am so lucky to get one, I'll then decide what to do for the rest of the day.
Milton is unique. I tend to be fairly consistent here at how I fish. I might use a bit of particle at times, but summer, autumn, winter tends to be boilies. So I tend to not change my approach, but elsewhere, yeah, I wouldn't fish quite the same. But here, I would never put on, say, I just don't even dream of putting on a fluoro because they want food. So if you can find a venue where they want food, where they're motivated to keep feeding, then you can almost fish like you do in summer. And that happens on a lot of the more commercial style venues because there's lots of anglers. They keep the fish busy, keep the fish moving. So I think that's much more important than any rig, any baiting strategy, anything else.
Completely different conditions, but the same tactic as yesterday in terms of dropping on where fish were, being mobile, dropping on and fishing for a bite, and yeah, it's taken an hour again, just as I was cooking me crumpet. Come on, come on. One of those little levers by the looks of it. Hey. She'll do. Boilie fishing is a beautiful tactic. It's something I really pine for in my angling. I love the simplistic approach of just being able to cast out for drops or cast to a spot, get the catapult out and just give a nice spread of boilies. It's so much easier than trying to hit, you know, a dinner plate at 100 yards with a dot spot and build a carp at a bait in a crosswind or something. You know, being able to turn up, a couple of flicks out, a few pouches of boilie. It's a really effective tactic as well. You know, that spread of bait, it keeps the carp moving from bait to bait as they pick them up. And I do believe it increases the chance of hooking carp when they do pick your rig up as they're on the move. The shrimp itself, I haven't used it straight out of the bag. I have glugged it in advance. I use the brine shrimp and gammarus from our naturals range. I put a whole bottle of that over a 5 kilo bucket, but I do that a day or so in advance. I never like to, you know, completely soak my boilies on the day because I just find as soon as they go in, it's getting washed off. I like them to be able to absorb it, go that sort of tacky consistency. Every few hours, I'll keep turning them over so when I get onto the bank, they're absolutely prime.
I think being mobile in winter is crucial. You've got to look for a sign. If you get a chance, a sniff, then move on it. Normally, when I fish Milton, is a little bit different at this session because I'm on a social with Dan. I brought the bivvy down. If I was coming on my own, I tend to sleep in my van and just do the days because as a rule in winter, nights aren't great. So I'd rather go back to a camp, you know, get a bit of kip and then I'm on the barra again and I'm moving around and I'm not locked in place, because the minute you lock yourself in place, no matter what anyone says, you go, oh, better stay here in case bite time. I see it out, and it's just, you know, you tend to chain yourself to a spot. So I prefer, if I can, the mobile approach. I've been in the first swim long enough and Dan's starting to catch now, which tells me that the carp are feeding. So I went for a look up the bank, and it's important in winter to look for the tiniest of signs, and I see a bit of smoking happening. So I quickly went back, reeled in a rod, come back to this swim, flicked it out, and do you know what? If you get it in the right place, you get a bite really quickly. 15 minutes later, I'm playing a lovely, lovely mirror. Well, Dan started catching, so I better get my finger out, I thought, and I've got one now. A beautiful fish. What Milton's known for, it's incredible looking stock, and this one shows that the future is really bright.
I think that would be one of my big tips for winter as well, is the preparation side of things. The last thing you want is to get on the bank and your rods aren't set up right, your tackle box is in a mess, and you're missing this and you're missing that, and it's cold hands and it's raining and it's dark, and you don't want that. You want to be turned up, militant, everything where it needs to be, bed out, brolly up, rods out, and then being comfortable, getting out there. You don't want to be sludging around in the mud in the dark. Like, I try and be all cool in that and not use a ground sheet. I'm an idiot. Use a ground sheet. It's so much warmer, it's so much neater. It's not that much effort to take a piece of material with you, but it makes such a big difference.
It's really important, the clothes you wear. So important. Waterproofs now. If these clothes leak, then that's a disaster. Buy the best, because it'll make you motivated. It'll keep you going, you know. Just make it enjoyable. The minute you're suffering, it ain't got to be suffering. There seems to be a thing now where you've got to suffer, and then that's really good. I'm not into suffering.
All of that comes into having a successful winter campaign for me, because if you're unprepared and you're not ready for it, that's when you start going, you know what, the last session was a bit of a grind. I'm not going to go out next week, or going, oh, not tonight, maybe tomorrow night. But if everything's ready, your clothes are warm, you're comfortable, all your kit's in the right place, you can go fishing at a drop of a hat and you'll enjoy it.
Well, this feels like a nice fish. Looks all right out there. Yeah, that looks all right. It's all about subtle signs in winter. See a little bit of colour. Just put a bait on it, and it was away. It's ploughing along the bottom now. Mud's coming up. I think it's a reasonably good fish. And if you find the right water, just fish simple, locate the fish, you can have some great fun in the winter. Come on. No. Yes, that is a special fish. What an incredible fish. If I painted a winter carp, a common, I couldn't do it better than this. This is amazing. 31 pounds, but I don't need to put a number on it to know how special it is. Wind, rain, frost, ice, snow, you name it, it's worth it for something like this.
I'll get onto this session in a minute, but typically when I have fished winter campaigns before, I've actually tried to feed quite a lot, especially early on in the campaign. I've found that if you can get the bait going in on a spot where you think they're going to hold up for the winter, or try and draw them into an area for the winter, and you keep applying that bait quite regularly, if you can keep them feeding in November, December, I think you can eat those bites out into January, into February. You know, if you can get something going, I think they'll keep revisiting areas and eating. So I think that regular baiting It's not always a winter tactic. You know, a lot of people associate winter with, you know, maybe a little maggot bag or some bright fluoro singles chucking about, but I like to try and keep that bait going in. Sometimes it's just been going down and putting 2 or 3 spods out twice a week. So the bait keeps going and keep going in, so they keep going and revisiting areas, so when they do know they do need to feed, they can home in on those areas and feed, because a carp's behaviour changes quite a lot depending on the water temperature. You know, they're cold-blooded, they're affected so much more than we can ever imagine as warm-blooded animals. You know, when they do drop down, their eyesight gets worse, their sense of smell gets worse, their metabolism gets worse. So I think if they know they can home in on an area to have a bit of a feed, I think it can be a real advantage. Well, we're in again, and he's actually done nice and quickly. Yeah, they've been fizzing out there all day, but a bit further than where I've been fishing. And I've actually just reeled one rod in. Oh, he's lovely and scaly. Reeled one rod in to redo it, and the other rod's gone. We had just seen some fizzing a bit closer to my spot. They've clearly just crept back in. And here we go for Milton carp number 3. Get in there. Oh, he's lovely. Oh, he's nicer. That's better. That's what we come for.
That, my friend, is Milton Magic.
That's why we come here, eh? And in January too.
Well done, mate.
Thank you very much, mate. It's much appreciated.
Look at it. What a fish.
I say we timed it just right.
Yeah, special creature, that. Special. That's what Dorset's all about, eh?
Thank you very much, mate.